You know the old saying that if you walk away from your car and you don't look back at it, you bought the wrong car? Well, I think I bought the right car. I have liked this car so much ever since the day I picked it up. I remember the first time I sat in it, it literally was a done deal. I just fell in love with it day one, and the cool thing is, with any car, being a car enthusiast, we like to modify our cars, we change it up, we create the car in our image, add what we want to do, and that's the cool thing about being a car enthusiast. You make your car your own. So in today's video, it's basically going to be a review of the new coilover setup along with the wheels and tires, going over the pros and the cons, and the whole build of it, basically what I think of this entire project. So for those of you who are new to the channel, this is my 2016 Nissan 370Z. It is the Nismo edition, manual transmission of course, and it does have the technology package. This is one of my favorite cars. I had a 2012Z before this, only had that one for 6 months, and now I'm on about 10 months owning this thing. So for the wheels, these are the Vossen VWS-3 wheels. They are obviously finished off in a bronze color. It's more of a satin matte bronze in the spokes and then a polished around the entire lip. So for sizing, we have 20-inch all around. They are 10 wide up front, and then we got 12 wide in the rear. A plus 25 offset up front, and then a plus 20 in the rear. So you can see these ones aren't really concave, just a hair, but then as we go to the back, obviously pretty concave, a huge lip there. And then for tires, I have the Nitto NT555 G2s. So we got 305, 30, 20 in the rear, and then of course 255, 35s up front. So staggered setup. These are single directional tires as you guys saw in the installation video, so no rotation or anything like that. And then for the suspension, I have the BC Racing Coilovers, and the rear are not true coilovers. I could have done that option, but I went with the OEM design. I chose that option just because the true coilovers, there's a little bit higher spring rate in the back, and then all the pressure is on the one strut rather than having the weight distributed between the spring and the actual strut. So to talk about the adjustments, so the coilovers, one thing I was actually wrong about in my entire installation and adjustment video, you don't actually change the spring rate. You can see the spring back there. But the spring rate is actually determined by the actual spring themselves. When you adjust where the spring is in the front and rear, that is the spring preload. And as you can see with the ride height, we have a little bit less wheel gap in the rear, comparing it to the front. The front is as low as I'm going to go. I think I will be raising the rear just a little bit. And from a lot of people's suggestions, I can just actually adjust the spring preload, which will also help raise the rear. So I'll probably do that, lift it up just another 1/4 inch, and then it'll be pretty even all around. And as far as the fitment goes for the wheels, the rears have no rubbing. They are at a -3 camber, but no rubbing back there. They fit very, very nicely. And then up front, the only rubbing I get, I'll turn the wheel in a second, there's a little plastic piece in here. When I go over big bumps on the highway, I can hear the tire hitting the fender liner just a little bit. Not sure if you can see it with the lighting in the fender liner, but there is a small hole right about there. You can see that square. That's where it's rubbing. This was like a corner or something. So nothing sharp back there, nothing really to be concerned about, but that is the extent to any rubbing. And then real quick, these tires are nearly brand new actually. So now we'll talk about ride quality, because a lot of people were like, why would you change the Nismo suspension? That's the upgraded suspension. Why change it to something aftermarket that is probably going to be less performance oriented? So first off, the stock Nismo suspension, the way my car was actually set up, was actually not real. And I say that because I still had these shipping spacers up front. From Nissan, I think 3 of them actually come on each front strut. Mine had 1, so the one that was on the back side, if you saw the install video, you know what piece I'm talking about. So the front end of my car was actually stiffer than what it really should have been. The new setup is stiffer than it even was, so if this was the bone stock suspension without shipping spacers, it probably would have been a little bit softer than I would have liked. So with the new BC Racing Coilovers, it is a stiffer ride, it's a little bit more abrupt, but at the same time it's better because it doesn't, not even the hint of any bounciness or anything, it just really pushes through the bumps. It's very solid feeling. And for performance, there's even less body roll. I was really impressed when I bought the car how stable it was, how little body roll there really was in the car. But now with this new setup, it is as flat as you can possibly think going around the turns. And then really cool, when accelerating and braking, there is less brake dive and squat. It really just stays flat. When I accelerate, it flatly accelerates, and between shifts, it doesn't shift or anything. It just stops for a split second and just keeps going. So the suspension is an upgrade. Of course, there's millions of adjustments. I can change the ride height, I can change the damping and all that kind of stuff. So I do think these are an upgrade over the stock ones, and I will be hitting the track in December, so of course I will get to see how they perform on the track setting, but I'm really impressed with them. I like the ride quality. It's just a solid performance feeling ride. Now onto the wheels, because these are heavier than stock, which for a sports car, that's not something you really want to do just because it kind of hurts your handling. Now I had the car dynoed before and after the wheels, and at the wheels on the dyno, it makes no difference. It's still putting out the same amount of wheel horsepower and torque. However, the only drawback I have noticed is the steering. The steering is a little less sharp. It's very, very good in the stock form with the stock wheels, but with the new one, the first like inch moving the steering wheel, it's just a little, not really much happens to the car when I'm turning the wheel, just a little bit. So the steering feel is a little not as good, but it's very small. It's not saying it feels like a semi-truck or anything crazy like that. It's just not quite as sharp, obviously. Braking, I haven't noticed any difference. I mean, I'm not tracking the car with these wheels, so I'm not gonna notice braking deficiency or anything like that. Acceleration-wise, it seems just as quick, and especially with the high flow cats, it now feels even quicker than before. So performance-wise, I don't think you really need to concern yourself if you add wheels that are like 10 to 12 pounds heavier. It's not really gonna make a difference. This is my street setup. And honestly, 90% of the time, our sports cars don't even see the track or anything like that. It's a daily driver, so around town, it looks good. That's kind of the goal. It performs well on the streets. I have my track set, which is the stock set, so I can always swap them back whenever I hit the track or anything. So that's why I'm not selling the stock wheels. But the wheels, they look amazing, which was the goal, and I don't notice enough performance drop to make it not worth it. So now we'll talk about the drawbacks. So obviously we got a little bit of rubbing up front, not really anything I'm concerned about, just a little bit of plastic. The steering is slightly less sharp comparing it to the stock wheels, but again, on street use, you really aren't gonna notice it. Performance-wise, I don't notice a difference like that. So the only drawback, and this is the car's fault, the rear camber adjustments is maxed out at -3 degrees. I can't get any lower than that. I believe the stock specs are like -1.5 or 1.8, so my goal is to get the rear closer to -2 degrees. So my question then for you guys is, for the rear camber, is all I need to do is get new camber arms, which I believe should be this one right here. There's another one there that looks like it, but it's hard to see at this angle. So if I get new camber arms that are adjustable, can I just basically have those installed and then adjust it while I get another alignment and have these dialed up to -2 degrees, or do I need new camber bolts as well? So as far as grip goes, when it is raining out, first and second gear in a straight line, I can spin the tires all day long. I even took a turn the other day, traction control off, second gear, gave it a little bit of gas, and it came out like a 90-degree drift. It was very easy to drift in the car now with the stock tires, the stock setup. Honestly, I had a really hard time breaking traction. So I think if I can adjust the rear camber to where there's a little bit more tire contact with the pavement, I don't think it'll spin as easily. When it's dry out, it takes turns really, really well. There's a lot of grip with the tires, but just primarily in the rain, straight line, it'll spin first and second gear. Even third gear, I can get it to spin. And then of course, taking the sharp turns, it comes out pretty easily. So I think that's really the only real adjustment I need to do. But other than that, that is kind of the summary, the review of this entire setup. I'm really happy with it. The look, I just can't get over. I really, really, really love the look of it. Every time I leave the car, I'm the guy who's just standing in the middle of the parking lot staring at his own car. It's just, it's what I wanted. You know, that's the great thing about cars, is you buy the car you want, make it the way you want it, and you just enjoy it. Well, there you go, everybody. That is a summary of the new stance and wheel tire setup on the car. I love it. I think it's pretty awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a huge thumbs up. Smash the subscribe button. If you have decals, check them out in the description below. You can see how you can pick one of them up. Limited run, so hurry up and get one while we still have them. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll see you all next video.